the pain like.
Hey guys, dearyoongi here, and welcome back to my channel. A few weeks ago, I uploaded a video titled K-pop groups with the most wasted potential, but that video only included groups who have not yet disbanded, even if inactive. A lot of people were interested to see a part 2, where we discussed K-pop groups with wasted potential who have now unfortunately disbanded, so we're going to do that today. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments on these groups and any others you can think of. In no particular order, let's get started. The first group we're going to discuss is a given. I'm sure some people are expecting this one, and that is CLC. CLC were a girl group who debuted in 2015 under none other than Cube Entertainment, which pretty much tells us everything we need to know about why their potential was wasted. But they deserve more time and attention than that, so let's carry on. CLC seemed to debut with quite a bright, fresh, and youthful girly concept, and were initially a 5-member group. As we all know by now, Cube don't exactly have the best track record for girl groups, which we discussed in part 1. So when Cube decided to add 2 members to CLC, it kind of further solidified that Cube yet again had no idea what they were really doing with this girl group. But it turned out the 2 members who were added were a huge asset to the team, and CLC managed to win over fans with their talent and engaging stage presence. But there was a very clear lack of direction from Cube, who, as well as changing their lineup on that one occasion, they also kept changing up their concept with every single comeback they made. The girls seemed to be really taking off with their song Hobgoblin, and people loved that image on them, but rather than sticking with this, Cube did a complete 180 with their next comeback. And although this showed the girls' versatility, this is not how you appeal to new fans who are now following them from their Hobgoblin era image. Cube were then also hitting the girls with inconsistent promotions and limited international opportunities, when fans clearly wanted them to tour or do more overseas. And then, like Cube always do, they debuted another girl group, G-Idol, who took up most of their attention. Now, I am in no way blaming Idol for CLC's wasted potential, oh god no. It's just Cube have a habit of debuting a new girl group to replace the one they're already taking for granted. And unfortunately that is exactly what happened to CLC, who of course ultimately disbanded, and as a huge fan of the girls, it was heartbreaking to see that it would inevitably happen and not being able to do anything to stop it. Next group I wanted to discuss in today's video is another one I'm sure we're all expecting to see, and that is Gugudan. Gugudan were a girl group formed by Jellyfish Entertainment in 2016, and they were really highly anticipated because 2 former IOI members, Sejong and Mina, were going to be joining the group. And things should have been great for Gugudan because the whole group were really talented and their futures looked promising. But they're in this video, so we all unfortunately know how things would have ended. One major issue that quickly came to light, similarly to CLC actually, was a lack of clear concept or direction for the girls. I remember a lot of people not really being keen on Gugudan's debut, but liking their comeback A Girl Like Me, and how much better that concept suited them. But Jellyfish Entertainment seemed uncertain about the image they wanted Gugudan to portray, which although yes did show their versatility, it unfortunately led to their identity among girl groups at the time being sort of inconsistent, and that is not how you establish a stable fan base. So I think Jellyfish's inability to establish a clear sound and image for Gugudan did them great harm in their potential in the long run, because they were at a loss before they could even properly get going, if that makes sense. And then as well as their image seemingly changing every time Gugudan came back, there was always a lack of promotion for the girls or quite a long hiatus between comebacks that always left people worried about the security of the group's future. I believe Gugudan's last comeback was in 2018 and they didn't disband until 2020. There was quite a long hiatus where both the girls and fans never knew where they were coming or going, and it's frustrating because I personally do not feel like they were set up for long-term success in any way, and Jellyfish just wanted to make sure they debuted their post-IOI trainees when they would still be able to garner some attention out of them, which isn't fair. You have a group full of talented individuals and people who want to follow them and their careers, but their company kind of made it impossible to do so, and that's just a massive waste. First boy group we're going to include in today's video of disbanded groups with wasted potential is X1. This one is rough. For those who didn't know the story of X1, X1 were a project boy group formed through Mnet's survival show Produce X101 back in 2019, similarly to how IOI and 101 had been formed. The groups formed on the Produce shows always seemed to do well, so there was absolutely no doubt that the future looked promising for X1. And things did start off well. The fans who were anticipating watching them and had been following the members since the show, loved their debut Flash, which ended up topping the Gaon album charts. However, when things fell apart fast. And this was one of the biggest cases of wasted potential we'll be discussing today, because the members' careers together as X1 were so short-lived. Allegations of voting manipulation began to emerge from their time during the produced show, basically insinuating that the final group lineup we had was generated through ingenuine means. Consequently, X1's activities were suspended in November 2019, with an investigation being conducted. And the group ultimately disbanded in early January 2020 because the members' respective agencies failed to reach a consensus on their future. And I think this came as a huge shock to a lot of us because, well, this sort of thing hadn't really happened before. In the past, a produced formed group would debut, have a successful few years, and then go their separate ways. Whereas X1 got barely a few months together and then that's it, done. X1's scandal disbandment was a huge disappointment for fans because people were so excited for them and all the things they could go on to achieve, because despite the voting manipulation scandal, the X1 members were all very talented and people wanted to see what they would do together and what they would go on to achieve. I do like to think, although their time was short-lived, X1 did leave somewhat a positive legacy amongst fans who got to love them for that short time. And then hopefully we can look back on what they did together with fondness rather than it being clouded by the unfortunate outcome. Okay, I did not realize how many Produce 101 show groups would be in this video, but one more group with massively wasted potential we have to discuss is Pristin. Pristin were a girl group formed by Pledis Entertainment in 2016, and much like Goo Goo Dan, their debut was very highly anticipated by fans because the group would see the re-debut of former IOI members Nayoung and Kyokyung. However, unlike Goo Goo Dan, where fans were a little bit disappointed and uncertain with their debut track, Pristin seems to have a complete opposite story, and people loved them, their sound, and their debut concept from the very beginning. And I must admit, I was there, it did really suit them, and the whole concept and whole vibe of the group just felt different from others around at that time. It was refreshing. Pristin also went on to achieve the Mama Award for Best New Female Artist in 2017, kind of solidifying them as monster rookies at the time. However, as time went on, things began to fall apart. There is a sort of consensus that Pledis gave up on Pristin because their follow-up releases weren't as popular as their debut, but I personally just find that hard to swallow because the girls only had one full group comeback following up from their debut Wii Wii titled We Like. So surely the label didn't use just that one comeback to determine the whole group's future. While the dwindling popularity may be part of the reason Pledis stopped focusing time, money and resources into Pristin, I personally think that's just part of the story, and the lack of push and promotion into giving them more comebacks sooner is also what really tarnished Pristin. When they were on their high as rookies, that is when Pledis should have been giving them more regular comebacks, more promotions, etc., to then see how their trajectory was looking. Not giving them one full group comeback and then sometime later a random subunit. I must admit, although I loved the subunit Pristin V and the image they had, it probably wasn't the best choice at that time when people still wanted to know what the hell was happening with the future of the full group. It just feels like Pledis didn't even give the whole group a fighting chance, and that is why Pristin is always brought up in these conversations of groups with wasted potential, because it didn't really have to go this way, and it wasn't until Pledis ruined it. So of course they ultimately disbanded, but because things started out so well, people are always left wondering, how did Pledis manage to ruin it so easily? In part 1 of this video, I mentioned how I included one group I personally adore, mainly for selfish reasons, which was Wiki Mickey. Well, I would like to also do the exact same thing again in this video by including the disbanded group Madtown. Madtown were a boy group formed by J-Tune Camp in 2014, and they were incredible. I thought they were just destined for success. When they debuted, so many huge artists around that time, including Sistar, VIX, and even BTS, in their early days, were seen advertising this group with posters saying "Welcome to Madtown," which I don't think had ever been done before that I was aware of. Now you may be thinking, how on earth did a rookie group who hadn't yet established themselves in the industry or even debuted had that sort of smoke? Well, their label was founded by none other than soloist Rain. Yeah, we'll get onto him. Some people may best know Madtown for their debut title YOLO. Yeah, this was around the time people used to say YOLO, maybe a bit later to be honest. But Madtown had so much potential. Their style kind of reminded me of the groups around that time like Got GOT7 because not only was their style sort of similar, they also had that same sort of captivating energy that made you want to get to know them. A few years into their career, one of the members, Jota, was on the show We Got Married, which actually gained the group some popularity on the back of that, and I naively thought it was the start of good things, but unfortunately their label seemed to do nothing with this, and they soon had a whole heap of other problems to deal with. In early 2017, Madtown's contract was sold to GNI Entertainment after the sudden closing of Rain's label J-Tune Camp. Literally the same year, in September, the members of Madtown filed for an injunction with the Seoul Central District Court against GNI Entertainment to end their exclusive contracts, after the CEO had been arrested for fraud and all of the staff members, including Madtown's manager, were leaving the company. In November 2017, the Seoul Central District Court ruled in favor of Madtown, stating that the terms of their contract can no longer be enforced by GNI Entertainment. Of course, this ultimately led to the disbandment of Madtown not long after. Now let me tell you why this one hurts so bad. Madtown just had it. Their discography, although limited, was strong, and the members had so much talent and potential and likability, but they were done so dirty by the people who were meant to be managing them, and if we're being honest, Rain. I'm gonna boil the problem back to the source. I could make a whole video about Rain and his numerous failed attempts with debuting K-pop boy groups, so I won't go too much into it today, but it seems second, third, and fourth gen have all had groups created by Rain that have seemingly been treated unfairly. Okay, before I go on my rampage about Rain, let's move on to the next group with wasted potential, GWSN. GWSN, which stood for Girls in the Park, were a girl group formed by Kiwi Media Group in 2018. And I think they were probably best known for their image being kind of unique and experimental when compared to other girl groups around the time. They seemed to do really well with their debut song Puzzle Moon, and because that got some attention for them and their performance skills, people were very much anticipating how their careers would move forward. The girls and their music were extremely likable, I would say. Unfortunately, GWSN faced quite a lot of difficulties just a couple years after debut. It seemed that everything was like an unfortunate timeline of events that we're going to have to get into. Their label, Kiwi Media Group, faced bankruptcy in 2020, and the girls were subsequently signed to The Wave Music instead. Now, I'm not fully sure if the change of label is what fully hindered the girls' activities, but we all know what also happened in 2020. It's really poor timing. The pandemic became a huge global issue, so it was almost certain at this point that GWSN's future was in danger. By the time the pandemic had, I guess you could say, subsided, even though we all know it didn't really, GWSN was still nowhere to be seen. In February of 2022, the GWSN members were evicted from their dorms because The Wave Music hadn't been paying the rent, and then by July of the same year, The Wave Music had actually gotten rid of the dance practice studio, and GWSN's team of managers and administrative staff had all left The Wave Music as well. A lawsuit against the label further revealed that The Wave Music had completely neglected two of GWSN's members. The negligence involved members Mia and Soso, who were from Japan and Taiwan respectively, and their immigration statuses. The negligence led to the members actually being penalized with fines and criminal records for overstaying their visas. This was never their issue to sort, it was the labels. And I believe that whole time GWSN still hadn't technically been classified as disbanded, even though everyone knew that was what had happened pretty much. But Mia herself confirmed that they had disbanded as of January 2023, I believe. And I wanted to try and make this video about how the group's potential was wasted and focusing on the groups instead rather than the labels around them. But for groups like Madtown and GWSN, it's really hard to ignore that the fact their downfall was so upsetting is because of the people around them. They seemed to be on a path of what was great success. The labels around them unfortunately ruined it and thus led to the waste of their potential. Next group we're going to discuss, who absolutely should be in this video, is GFriend. GFriend were a girl group formed by Source Music in 2015, and I think they were definitely known for having quite a youthful image. And unlike some of the other groups in this list, they seemed to manage to establish their image and concept quite quickly in their early years, and I'd say they were pretty consistent. Thanks to that consistency, GFriend were able to establish a really strong fan base early on, and they were kind of known for being the group with the synchronized choreography and performance skills. girls. I will be honest, G-Friend's earlier sound wasn't my personal cup of tea, but I can appreciate talent when I see it. In July 2019, the girls' company Source Music was acquired by Hybe Corporation, making the company part of Hybe labels. I think around this time is when their sound started to sort of mature and change in a way, and their new concept became really interesting to me. I foolishly believed their new journey under Hybe labels was going to be really prosperous, and I absolutely adored their song Mago, only for that to end up being their final one. In May 2021, Source Music suddenly announced that G-Friend would be disbanding after their contracts expired, citing careful consideration and extensive discussion with the members. But the exact reasons behind their sudden demise has always remained unclear to this day, because I believe the group actually still had activities scheduled which were all suddenly cancelled, and then the girls were told, okay, this is it, the end, goodbye. So it's not even like good terms were left. There had always been conspiracies as to why the girls didn't re-sign their contract. One of the theories fans have is that the girls and Source Music couldn't come to an agreement on the money they should be earning. Another fan theory that kind of ties in with this is that Source Music offered the girls less because they wanted to put all their time, money and attention into the group they were planning to debut in 2022, Le Sserafim. We'll never really know, but it is unfortunate that it seems we had unlocked this whole new era of G-Friend and that they'd proven their potential to go forward was endless. But unfortunately, this new era that they could have absolutely thrived in was massively cut short. Okay guys, and that was it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching if you got this far. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I could have included so many more groups in this video, so I'm sorry if your faves weren't mentioned, but please let me know in the comments your thoughts on what happened with these groups and any others you would include in another part. If you're new here and haven't yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the notification bell. That should let you be the first to hear whenever I upload, and I will see you next time. Bye guys!